The late morning sun hung low over the city, warming the cracked sidewalks and abandoned corners where most people never looked twice. Among those forgotten spaces walked Aria Monet, a 17-year-old homeless girl whose life had become a constant test of survival. With tangled braids falling over her shoulders, second-hand sneakers with torn soles, and a canvas backpack filled with everything she owned, she moved with the quiet resilience of someone who had learned early that the world gave nothing for free. That day, she was hungry, exhausted, and unsure how she would make it through another week. But in the next few moments, her life would collide with a fate she never saw coming. And it all started with the sound of a man collapsing behind the old Elmwood bus station. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your support truly keeps stories like this alive. Aria had been searching near the station dumpsters for half-discarded sandwiches or bottles someone left behind, hoping to piece together a meal. She had learned to live invisibly, blending into alleys where no one questioned her, no one judged her, and no one cared. But suddenly, the sharp thud of a body hitting concrete shattered the stillness. Her instincts reacted before her mind could catch up. She dropped her backpack, sprinting toward the sound with a determination that came from a place deeper than fear. Beneath the shade of a bus shelter lay a man in his late 60s, pale and motionless, his crisp white shirt wrinkled and stained from the fall. His silver hair was neatly combed, his wristwatch sleek and expensive, and his loafers polished, clearly someone from a world far different from hers. But right now, none of that mattered. His breaths were shallow and uneven, his lips almost blue. Aria felt her chest tighten in panic, but she forced herself to focus. She shook his shoulder gently, trying to keep him conscious, trying to keep him alive, because no one else was there and no one else was coming. Aria had learned basic first aid from a volunteer nurse who occasionally visited the city shelters, and now, every bit of that knowledge fought its way forward in her mind. She checked his pulse, it fluttered weakly beneath her fingertips. She lifted his head slightly, loosening his shirt collar, whispering desperate encouragement to a stranger who couldn't hear her. After what felt like hours but was only seconds, she reached for the old payphone mounted near the wall, praying it still worked. The metallic taste of fear hit her tongue as she dialed emergency services, giving them the closest intersection she knew since she had no phone and no means to track her location precisely. While waiting, she returned to the man's side, pressing her palm gently against his chest, monitoring his strained breathing. Her own heartbeat pounded in her ears, but she stayed steady and calm because this man's life depended on it. Finally, an ambulance arrived, sirens slicing through the afternoon air. At first glance, the paramedics almost dismissed Aria, assuming she was just another homeless girl hovering around a stranger out of curiosity or trouble. But when she explained what happened and how she kept him breathing, their tones shifted. They moved quickly, efficiently, lifting the man onto the stretcher while Aria stepped back, clutching her worn backpack to her chest. One paramedic asked for her name, just for the report, but she shook her head shyly and refused. She didn't want credit, she only wanted him to live. For the rest of the day, Aria wandered aimlessly through the city, her mind replaying the scene over and over. She kept worrying whether the man survived, whether her help had been enough. The sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the streets, yet the warmth did nothing to calm the nervous ache inside her. She headed toward the old pedestrian bridge where she often slept, finding a corner shielded from the wind. There, under the fading daylight, she wrapped herself in her thin blanket, unaware that her life was seconds away from changing in ways she could never imagine. The next afternoon, as Aria returned to the bus station hoping to ask the attendant if he'd heard anything about the man, a sleek black SUV pulled up beside her. She froze, unsure whether to run or stay. A tall middle-aged woman stepped out, her voice gentle but firm as she approached. She introduced herself as Marilyn Huxley, assistant to the man Aria had saved. She explained that his name was Mr. Ellis Rowan, a well-known businessman and philanthropist whose quiet wealth had funded city libraries, food drives, and educational programs for decades. Aria's breath caught. Never had she imagined the man she saved was someone with such influence. Marilyn revealed that Ellis was awake and stable, and the first thing he said when he regained consciousness was that he wanted to find the girl with brave hands and a kind heart. Arya's eyes stung with emotion. She was used to being overlooked, treated as a shadow of society, never as someone worthy of being sought after. Marilyn gently extended her hand, inviting Arya into the SUV. Fear battled curiosity in Arya's chest, but something about Marilyn's sincerity calmed her enough to accept. As they drove through the city, passing neighborhoods she had only ever dreamed of entering, her hands trembled, clutching the seatbelt as if it might anchor her to reality. They arrived at a private hospital suite, filled with soft light and fresh flowers. Ellis Rowan lay propped up on pillows, still weak but smiling warmly when he saw her. Arya expected him to ask who she was, where she came from, or why she helped him. Instead, he simply thanked her, deeply, emotionally, and with a gratitude that felt heavier than gold. He explained that he had collapsed due to a severe cardiac arrhythmia and that without her intervention that day, he would not be alive. He admitted he remembered her voice urging him to breathe, her hands steady on his chest, and her unwillingness to abandon a stranger even when she herself had nothing. Over the next few days, Ellis insisted on speaking with Arya every afternoon. She opened up slowly, sharing pieces of her story, the abusive home she fled from at 15, the shelters that couldn't always keep her, the jobs she was too young to legally work, the nights she hid under bridges when shelters overflowed. She told him about her dreams of finishing school, studying nursing, and helping others the way she had once been helped. Ellis listened, never judging, never pitying. Instead, he regarded her with admiration, as if she were the strongest person he had ever met. On the fourth day, Ellis asked her to return in the evening. When she arrived, he was sitting upright, dressed in comfortable clothes instead of hospital gowns. His assistant Marilyn stood beside him, holding a folder. Ellis explained that he wanted to do something meaningful, something life-changing, for the girl who saved his life. Arya's heart pounded, unsure what was coming. Then he revealed the truth. He had arranged a safe housing program for her, complete with her own furnished apartment. He had enrolled her in a local high school's late intake semester. He had covered her tuition and basic expenses, and he planned to mentor her personally so she could pursue her dream of nursing. Arya broke down, tears streaming silently as she tried to comprehend the depth of his generosity. The city looked different after that day. Light seemed brighter, possibilities wider. Arya moved into her apartment, a small, sunlit space with clean linens, warm blankets, and a kitchen she could hardly believe was hers. She stood there for a long time, touching the walls, opening drawers, almost afraid it would disappear. Ellis visited periodically, checking on her progress, offering guidance, and reminding her that she wasn't alone anymore. Under his support, Arya blossomed. She studied hard, volunteered at clinics, built friendships, and slowly started healing from the trauma she carried for years. She even returned to the bus station on weekends, distributing sandwiches and warm clothing to people who lived the life she once did, determined never to forget where she came from. Months later, Ellis invited her to a charity gala where she was introduced as the honored guest. Wearing a borrowed cream-colored dress and simple braid crown, Arya stood nervously among city officials, business owners, and philanthropists. When Ellis took the stage to speak, he shared the story of how a homeless teenage girl saved his life, reminding everyone that true wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts but in compassion, the kind Arya had shown without expecting anything in return. The room erupted with heartfelt applause, but Arya's eyes filled with quiet gratitude rather than pride. She wasn't used to attention, but she was grateful for the chance to inspire others. As the gala lights dimmed and the guests filed out, Arya stepped outside into the cool evening air. She looked up at the sky, thinking about the girl she once was, the girl who survived on scraps, slept under bridges, yet never lost her ability to care. Saving Ellis had changed his life, but in the end, it changed hers even more. It proved that even in the hardest moments, kindness creates miracles. And sometimes, those miracles come back far greater than anything one could ever imagine.